So, hello everybody, good evening. My name is Nikki, if we haven't met before, and I'm here with Jason Gregoriades, and the two of us are going to be having a brief conversation to spark your conversation in Life Group this evening around what it means to be becoming emotionally mature. We're doing this preaching series, kicking off this journey through the whole of August, where we're looking at emotional health, emotional maturity. And this week we looked at, on Sunday, looking beneath the surface, and it was such a brilliant message, wasn't it, Jace? It was just an amazing way to kick us off on this journey. And many of us are going through the solo prayer journal devotional that, if you haven't downloaded, we really want to encourage you to do so. It's really really brilliant. But what we're hoping for is that from time to time during this series, to spark your conversation, we're going to be asking a few questions to one or two people who have gone ahead, so to speak, gone ahead of the pack, and already have begun to dig a little bit deeper into the stuff of emotional health and emotional maturity. And Jason is one of those people. So Jason, we've got a few questions for you in your own processing of this stuff around emotional health, and especially around looking beneath the surface and going a little bit deeper. And so Jason is taking time out of his workday, and he's at a cafe. So we might have a few people sending a few hellos or shouting in a car park. So don't worry if that happens, Jace. But we would first love to hear from you. Why is it so difficult? Because we listen to the stuff and I think we all think this is so good, but yet looking beneath the surface and going deeper is hard. Why is it so hard? Why have you found it so hard?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, next, I think that's a brilliant question just to kind of kick off. And to answer, I think I would just simply say that it's just very unnatural. So I mean that in two senses. I mean, it's quite unnatural to do things differently. You know, having to look beneath the surface means you have to do things different to what you are used to and what's the norm. So it does require a bit of a change. And then on top of that, I mean, if that wasn't hard enough, the secondary kind of unnatural component is once you do things differently, you are then met with often very difficult and painful emotions or instances or thoughts to process. So even once you eventually get there, wow, it can be pretty tough and pretty challenging.
So true. Hey, that's so good. And Jace, maybe you can tell us a little bit about for you yourself, this journey of emotional health and moving towards becoming emotionally mature. How did that journey start for you, and how has it impacted some of your relationships so far?
Yeah, sure. So lo and behold, of one of the 24 church WhatsApp groups I belong to, I actually received a cool, I received a podcast that Roger sent out, and it took us to this particular resource, which kind of introduced us to that. So it was actually just through this podcast, he just kind of was the, and how it's impacted me and my relationship is that it's just forced me to take a long-term view of things. And the reason why I say that is because those issues or those complexities that you are faced with are far more complex and are far more difficult to deal with than you would imagine. So it's not like they can get sorted in a day or even a week or who knows, even a month at least. So just kind of resigning yourself that, oh, okay, great, this won't kind of get done in 15 minutes or in 2 days, and then just accepting that as part of the process. So yeah, and then just taking a long-term view. So I found that's probably been one of the most helpful things.
That's great, eh? And then I think something that I found so interesting in starting this journey is even looking back on my own faith journey and churches that I've been a part of in the past, and even just the church at large, where often we have held our emotions at arm's length, and emotions and feelings, you know, we've always been told don't let your feelings guide you, you know, when you're making decisions and all that. So we've seen feelings as something that are actually something to almost be ignored, or if at work at best just to separate. You know, there's feelings on this side and then there's your spiritual life on this side. And we've actually done pretty well to separate those two things. And now we're coming to a place where our emotional health is in a mess, and how that's impacting our spiritual health and spiritual maturity, really. What would you say to people who have held their emotions at arm's length, so to speak, and and how to kind of reconcile those two things, I suppose, and why we do that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think there has been quite a process, just how the church has changed with regards to how we deal with and how we approach our emotions. I think that perhaps the best motivation I could give to people for why it would benefit one to really to consider and to give the due respect to your emotions is the fact that it's one of our key components as human beings. When we think about the instruction from God, what's the most important thing to do? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So my thought is, I mean, just imagine if you applied the same disregard to your mind. If you were like, oh, great, you know what? Actually, I'm not really going to apply my mind, or I'm not going to give as much respect or as much weight to my thoughts and my spiritual life, because actually, hang on, my mind isn't the spiritual part. And so, you know, I feel like we should treat our emotions with that same degree of respect.
Wow, that's so brilliant, eh? Awesome. And something I also thought is that often our emotions are actually almost like a signal from even from God, like what he could be doing in us. And when we take time to listen to our emotions, it often means that we're taking time to be still enough to listen to God, which is obviously what we want to be making time for, more and more time for, as we grow in emotional maturity. Thank you so much, Jace. That was amazing and power input from you in the car park of the cafe that you're in. And thank you to all of you who are listening at home or in your own Zoom life group meetings. We really appreciate it. And we really want to encourage you to just engage in as deep a way as we can. I think one of the things we keep saying is this content is so brilliant, and it really has the potential to change us, to literally make us different people. But only to the degree that we engage with it and let it sink deep into our hearts. So we trust that this just sparks more conversation and more meaningful conversation in your life group now as you guys discuss. And we really look forward to hearing stories of grace and testimonies of what God is doing, and look forward to next week as well. So watch this space. And thank you so much, Jason.